Hey guys, Michael Hyatt here. If you're watching the replay of this broadcast, thanks for tuning in. And remember, you can still applause or show me the love by tapping on the screen and giving me some hearts. Where are you guys from today? Where are you calling in from? Hey Eleni. Hey Josh. Laurel, Mississippi. Southern California. From Orlando. Virginia. Homestead, Kansas City. Michigan. Jen. Israel. Brazil. Nashville. Fellow Nashvilleian. I'm from Nashville. New Jersey. Michigan. Pat from Charleston, South Carolina. Fresno. South Pole. That's got to be the most creative response yet. I think I'm going to use that in somebody else's scope. London. Awesome. Well, it's good to be with you guys. This is the Virtual Mentor Show. My name is Michael Hyatt. My goal is to provide you with the confidence, the clarity, and the tools you need to win at work and to succeed at life. And today, we're going to be talking about how to finally achieve work-life balance. I don't know if you struggle with that. Most people I know do. But we're going to be talking about that on today's program. And in case you don't know me, again, my name is Michael Hyatt. I'm the author of Platform Get Noticed in a Noisy World. And it's a New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and USA Today bestseller. And it's really a book about social media and how to use social media to build your platform, to get visibility for your message, and to ultimately find your tribe and connect with it. I blog at michaelhyatt.com, where I get about 1 million page views a month. My podcast is called This Is Your Life. You can find it on iTunes. Just search for my name, Hyatt, H-Y-A-T-T, and I have a new episode live today. And guess what it's about? Work-life balance. That's why we're talking about it here today. So here's how this is going to work. I'm going to talk about work-life balance for about 15 minutes. Then I'll open it up to questions. We'll go for about another 15 minutes. And, we can talk about anything you want, but I really want to focus on these issues related to work-life balance because I think they're critical for all of us. I struggled with this for years. When I first got going in my career, and this may have been true for you, it just seemed like there was so much financial pressure. We had 5 kids. We had them in the course of 10 years. So we had 5 kids under the age of 10 years old. What were we thinking? And it was tough. I'm just going to tell you, it was a real struggle. By the way, are you guys hearing me okay? I just noticed that my mic was on the floor. Rookie mistake. Can you hear me better now? Why don't I just take this out from the iPad? Better? Better? Okay, great. All right, where was I? I was telling my story. Oh yeah, so I wanted to make my mark in the world. I wanted to have an impact at work. I wanted to grow in my career so I could make money to be able to support my family. And I'm kind of a high achiever, so achieving was an important thing. What happened to me is that I found myself, not through any plan, but I just became a workaholic. I drifted to a destination that I don't think I would have chosen if I'd really thought about it. And that happens to a lot of people, right? And so because of a series of things in my life, including a business failure that I went through in the 90s, issues with my kids, issues with my health, I realized that I had to start designing my life and stop drifting. Do you know the difference? Most people in this world are drifting. I'll tell you another quick story, and I've told this in a lot of different places. If you've heard it before, forgive me. But when Gail and I had been married about 10 years, we went to Maui for a vacation. We were pretty much broke, but we put all of our nickels together, all of our pennies together, and we got some airline miles and we got some tickets to Maui. And so we went to Maui. And we couldn't really afford to do anything on Maui, but the hotel we were staying at was offering free snorkeling lessons. So we said, great, we can do that. We love the ocean. We've heard that all the wildlife under the sea, it's amazing in Hawaii. So let's do some snorkeling. So we started in the swimming pool. They gave us some basic lessons. Then we went out onto the coral reef. Oh my gosh. How many of you guys have done that? You've been on the coral reef in Hawaii snorkeling or scuba diving? John says, love the snorkel story. Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. We were blown away. It was like swimming in an aquarium. So we thought, you know what? This is something we can do all week long and it's not going to cost us that much. So we went into town. We bought some snorkeling gear. I mean, just the basics. We had, what do you call it? The face mask. We had the snorkel itself, and we had some, the fin things, whatever you call those. You can tell I'm a big snorkeler. This will be funny for a reason you probably don't expect in a minute. But so the next morning at 6 o'clock in the morning, we woke up. We went to the lagoon that was near our hotel. And I'm going to tell you something. It was like glass. Absolutely beautiful. Not another soul out there. All the smart people were still sleeping, but we were up and we thought we'd go snorkeling. So we wade out into the water and we look down into the water. We're together. We have a boogie board with us and we're just totally captivated. We are absolutely mesmerized. We were like kids. We couldn't believe what we were seeing in the sea. We couldn't believe that we were swimming with these fish, these beautiful multicolored fish. We were watching the seagrasses blow back and forth. We were totally caught up in it. So about 10 minutes later, I decided to lift my head up, just to kind of see where we're at, make sure we hadn't drifted out too far. Evidently, we got caught in a riptide, and we had gotten pulled way out to sea. Fortunately, we were still together. I tapped Gail and I said, "Look up." She looked up. She gasped because the hotel where we were staying was this distant little toy in the distance. Scared us both to death. Fortunately, we had a boogie board, so we did the only thing we knew to do. We didn't know anything about riptides. I mean, now I know about them. I know that you're not supposed to swim into them. You're supposed to swim, perpendicular to them, but we didn't know that. So we swam as hard as we could for the shore. It took us like about 45 minutes. It's a miracle we got back. Pulled ourselves up on the shore, exhausted, collapsed on the beach. We've never been snorkeling since. And that's what happens to so many people. They're just caught up in life. They don't wake up with a plan to drift or end up in a destination they wouldn't have chosen, but they just drift there because they're distracted. They're preoccupied with other things. And that can happen to you in life too. And so you've got a choice in life. You can either drift or you can design. And having a balanced life, which I talk about in my podcast, did I mention that? My podcast on iTunes, it's called This Is Your Life. The episode I just released this morning just came out, and it's all about work-life balance. So Stu McLaren, my co-host right now, and I talked about this topic. And let me just tell you a few things we talked about. Hang on just a second, because I want to give this to you, because I'm going to tease you. Okay? Is that okay? Can I just tease you with this? Because I want you to listen to the podcast itself. So here's what we talk about. Somebody said they listened to it. Awesome. Sandy says, love it. Drift or design. Phoenix says, are you a Stitcher? Yes, my podcast is on Stitcher. Somebody said, love the show. Horseshoe says, I just got a diagnosis of the big C. I need to design. First of all, I'm so sorry. That's got to be a kick in the gut. But yes, it's a time to be intentional for sure. And I don't have anything to recommend because that's so far beyond my experience. But hopefully there's a support group that can help you with that. So somebody said you should make T-shirts, drifter design. Yeah, maybe I'll do that. This is all actually in my new book, which is called Living Forward, which will be out next spring. I'll tell you more about that on another scope. But here's what I talk about in the podcast today, and I really, really would be so grateful if you'd listen to it. And if this sounds like you, give me some hearts. Or if this sounds like it might resonate with you. I talk about the most common misconceptions about work-life balance and how they throw us off. How you think about work-life balance has a lot to do with how you approach it. So I talk about that on this podcast. I talk about one surprising metaphor that really unlocks the real-life challenge of balancing work, home, and all the rest. By the way, I'm looking over here at my screen on my web post or my blog post today. I talk about the tricky way our egos can sometimes get in the way of finding balance. It's true. A lot of times it's just ego. And I talk about how that rascal can sneak up on us when we least expect it and rob us of work-life balance. Here's another one. I talk about the lie we tell ourselves about why we can't find balance and how to expose it. Now, let me just tell you this. I'll preview this. Hint. It's a lie. You can achieve work-life balance, and I tell you in today's podcast how to do it. But a lot of it depends on how you think about it and how you define what balance is, okay? And another hint, it's not about spending equal time in every part of your life. That's not balance. That's kind of a monstrosity. Not every part of your life deserves the same amount of attention, the same amount of investment. Okay, here's another one. 3 simple habits that can help us maintain balance amid the push and pull of life. Okay? If you guys are finding this scope valuable or beneficial, I'd be so grateful if you share it. If you're on an iOS device, just swipe left to right, hit the share button, and share it with your friends on Twitter. If you're on an Android device, swipe from the bottom to the top and do the same thing. I'd be grateful for that. So with that, kind of that preface behind it, let's talk about work-life balance. First of all, do you struggle with work-life balance, or are you one of the people that have got it figured out? Let me know. Give me your name in all caps, and then give me your comment, and I'll give you a shout out. Tanya says, yes. Vivi says, struggle. Zelly says, yes. Clay says, yes, I struggle. This is really an honesty test, right? Because we all struggle with it. Katrina struggles. Steven struggles. Zelchko, yes. Hope I haven't botched your name. Yolanda, figured it out. Well, good. Lori, yes. Yes. Amy, yes. Leanne, need to schedule better. Rebecca, it's an ongoing process. That's a key insight, and that's part of the metaphor. I won't tell you what the metaphor I use is, but it is a struggle. The problem is sometimes the struggle to maintain balance feels like we don't have it, okay? But really we're achieving it. It's just a struggle. It's not this place of quiet rest where, we get to this place where we no longer have to struggle. The angels sing and we just have this mythical work-life balance. That's not how it works. It's a struggle, and I really think it'll be a struggle till the day we die. Okay, questions. And give me your name in all caps. Give me a couple question marks, and then give me your question. Tanny says, I stopped trying to reach a perfect balance. Excellent. Linda says, struggling, work full-time, part-time, an older college student, wife, mom, helping my mom. Yeah, a lot of roles. And especially for those of us that are getting older with our parents still living. My parents are still alive. They're in their 80s. And so it's a lot. With 5 kids that live here and my parents, it's a challenge for most of you, I'm sure. Manasee, any pointers on how to find your niche? I feel lost. I missed the last part of that. I would say, I would start with this. In finding your niche, I would start with what do you have a passion about? That's number one. The second thing I'd look at is what are you really competent or good at? Where do you have demonstrated skills? And then number 3, what is the market demanding? At the intersection of those 3 overlapping circles, so passion, competence, market demand, at the intersection of those 3 overlapping circles, I think is your niche or your calling. Felipe says, oh, lost it, sorry. Christina, lost yours too. These go by so fast. Penny says, self-employed, best way to set boundaries. The best way for me, Penny, is to set, because I'm self-employed too, is a hard stop. So I know, for example, by 6 p.m. every night, I did this when I was in the corporate world, when I was the CEO of Thomas Nelson Publishers, I walked out of the office by 6 o'clock every night. It was a hard stop. I made a promise to my family that I would be home for dinner, and I left almost every day. There were probably a few exceptions, but almost every day I got home on time. Lynn, advice for a college student to start with the right balance. I would start with a schedule. I have a tool on my website at michaelhyatt.com. You have to search for it in the search bar, but it's called the Ideal Week. And that is to map out the week as you would like it to be. Again, I'm showing design, not drift. Don't just drift into a week with other people's agendas, but actually design your week in advance. What would your life be like? What would your week be like if you designed it in advance so that you had an appropriate amount of time for self-care, for physical fitness, for time with your family, for times to study, for time at work, whatever else it is. Leanne says, can't shut my mind off. Feel behind if I don't work. I think it's probably good to ask yourself the question, why is that? It could be that you're simply trying to make ends meet, right? It could be that it feeds your ego. It could be that you're just not exercising an appropriate level of self-discipline. Here's what I know for sure. If the only part of your life that gets developed is your work life, that turns into a monstrosity. You want balance. You want to be a well-developed person. Because eventually something's going to happen in your work, and if all your eggs are in that one basket and you have a crisis and that part of your life falls apart, you're going to be lost. That's why I think it's so important for self-care, for developing friendships and relationships, so that when you encounter life's crises, that you've got a way of coping with them, a way of dealing with them. Okay, so that's called the Ideal Week, and you can find that on my site at michaelhyatt.com. Jessica, do you think loving work helps with balance, working with family? I think it's good if you love what you do. You know, I think it does take sometimes more discipline because I love what I do too. But yeah, I think it helps. Jonathan, how do you recover from drifting? Jonathan, here's what I would say. Start living with intention. You follow me. You know all the stuff I say. Great question. I'm sure you're asking it on behalf of somebody else. But just being more intentional. Deciding what you want in every area of your life. If you could design it, what kind of health would you want? I mean, what do you want? Are you just going to be satisfied with the status quo, with the drift? Maybe you're sick. Maybe you're tired. Maybe you're out of shape. Does it have to be that way? What if I said to you, who you are today, what you are today, is the sum total of all the decisions you've made up until this point? Does that sound harsh? I don't think so. Here's what's great about it. It might sound harsh immediately, but the good news is you can make different decisions and create a different outcome in your life. What about your marriage? Are you satisfied with the marriage you have today? Or with your job? All of it comes back to intention. Kimberly, goal setting workshop soon. Yeah, we're going to be gearing up for 5 days to your best year ever. Watch for that in early December. Kathy, when you catch yourself drifting out of balance, how do you talk to yourself? That's a great question, Kathy. I think for me, it always begins with recognition. You know, to just say, got a problem. Like last week, I'll give you a perfect example. Last week, on Wednesday evening, I looked at my calendar for Thursday and I gasped. I had been so busy that I didn't plan the week like I should. And so when I looked at Thursday, I saw that it was jam-packed full of appointments. And I just gasped. And I realized that I wasn't going to survive the next 2 days unless I did something. And so what I did was I triaged my calendar. I said, what do I absolutely have to do, but what can go? And so we started canceling and rearranging so that I had a little breathing room and didn't go out of balance. What else? Other questions? Felipe, do you ask family and friends to keep you accountable? Absolutely. Well, let me put it this way. I don't have to ask. I got the kind of family and the kind of friends that are happy to speak into my life whenever they jolly well please. And I love it like that. I mean, my family knows, and part of it is because of the attitude I have. And if you want people that will hold you accountable, people that will speak into your life, listen to me, this is important. You got to make it safe for them to speak the truth in your presence. If you react, if you become defensive, they'll just shut it off. They'll stop giving you the counsel and the insight and the feedback you need to improve and grow. So that's the key. I've got a great family that does that. Happens at least once a week. Same thing with my friends. Amy says, thoughts on recovering from burnout. I'll tell you where I would start. I would make time for sleep. I'm just going to tell you, I write a lot about sleep. I'm a firm believer in sleep. Last night, I got 8 solid hours. Gail and I said, we're going to be in bed by 8 p.m. last night. We didn't quite make it. We finally fell asleep at about 9. I slept all the way through till 5 this morning. And I felt fantastic. My focus today, my productivity is so much better. But if you're not getting adequate sleep, I can promise you, you're going to hit burnout. Now, there's other things, nutrition, exercise, a lot of other things, but it starts with the right amount of sleep. Somebody says, do you meditate? Yes, I do. And because I'm a little bit of a geek, I shared that with you yesterday, I use something, I didn't actually plan to do this, but I'm sitting next to the chair where I meditate. I've got this thing called a Muse. How many of you have heard of this? This is like a biofeedback thing that fits on your head, and it tracks your brain waves. I mean, this is kind of weird, right? Okay, sorry, I'm just going to go for it. So Pat Flynn got me into this, but you can get it off of Amazon. But it works with your iPhone, and it gives you biofeedback of when you're calm and relaxed. And it gamifies it. This is the cool thing. So when you're really calm, you hear these birds chirping in the background, and so then you get a score after every session. So yeah, I love it. I use it all the time, and it's It's been really helpful to me. You know, when I need to get myself calm, I can do it because I'm practicing using that device. Felipe says, do you recharge alone? Sometimes, but I also recharge with relationships. Aaron, how much do you read? I usually read about a book a week at least, and a lot of other stuff too. What is it called? It's called Muse, M-U-S-E. Look at the Amazon store, M-U-S-E. Yeah, Dan says, could I recommend a book called Goals by Brian Tracy? You sure can. It's great. Yep, Muse, Clay, that's exactly how it's spelled. Kathy, people can work in cultures where balance is discouraged. Some startups. Advice. Yeah, I think this is a great opportunity for you to exercise leadership. If leadership's influence, you can walk into a culture. This is a great test for your leadership. You know, are you going to be a thermostat or are you going to be a thermometer? You know, a thermometer tells you what the temperature is. That's not a leader. A thermostat sets the temperature. That's a leader. And so you can walk into a culture. I walked into a big corporation about 20 years ago. The culture was horrible. And I decided that I was going to make a difference. I may not be able to affect the people above me, though frankly I ultimately was, but I could definitely affect the people under me and maybe the people that were my peers. But culture comes from our behavior. If you want to affect corporate culture, all you got to do is behave in the way that you want the culture to go, right? So if you're tired of gossip, because if you're in a culture that's got a lot of gossip, don't gossip. Just refuse to participate. Say, I'm sorry, going to opt out on that. I'm not going to participate in that. So you create the culture. Set the right tone. Yes, Restore to Serve said that's exactly right. Any other questions about work-life balance? Advice on being able to make income doing what you love. Figuring out is one thing, making bucks is another. All I can say is that it's related to your expertise. Figure out your expertise, what people are willing to pay for, and that's the secret to making money. How do I know my plan isn't a drift plan? Maybe I didn't get that quite right. Turn to Error On says, are you a Christian? Yes, I am. Other questions? Somebody said introvert. Yes, I'm an introvert. I showed you my cool shirt yesterday. Tim, how do you balance special requests from good things like church with your standard balance? This is a great question. A request doesn't constitute a yes or doesn't obligate me to a yes on my part. I get way more requests, especially today. I get way more requests than I could possibly ever in a million years fill. Good requests. You know, I'm not saying no to bad things. I'm saying no to good things. But here's what I say when I reply to those people. I say, in order to be faithful to my current commitments, I have to decline worthy requests like yours. I mean, it sounds fun. It sounds like it's going to be tremendously helpful to people. But in order to be faithful to my current commitments, like my health, my family, other things I don't go into a lot of detail, but in order to be faithful, I have to decline requests like this. Let me tell you something. People respect no. It's a complete sentence. If you want to read a book on this, get Lisa TerKeurst's book, Your Best Yes. It's on the New York Times list, Your Best Yes. Yeah, somebody says, say no if it's not essential. Jeremy says that. Read the Essentialism book. Yes, Greg McKeown's book, Essentialism, must reading. Yes, I did read Love Does by Bob Goff. In fact, I published that when I was the CEO at Thomas Nelson. Bob's a dear friend of mine. So many questions going by. Aaron, what book do you recommend to a young adult? I think you have to be a little more specific than that. Essentialism is a good book for anybody. The Best Yes, Lisa TerKeurst. Thank you for spelling that correctly. Viviana, how do you remind yourself to commit to your current season? Well, I think my family helps me with that a little bit. And I just remind myself that the season I'm in. Like, for example, I don't have any kids at home right now. If you have small kids at home, you're in a totally different season, right? Like, I can spend 2 hours in the morning after I get up, working out, doing my quiet time, all that. You probably can't do that. When I had 5 daughters under the age of 10 at home, I made a goal of having a 7-minute quiet time, to pray and read the Bible, 7 minutes a day. That was good enough. I just wanted to be consistent. Why have you changed your background setting for scopes? Because the lights I'm using now were reflecting off the background. So that's why I did this. Speaking of Periscope, can I change the subject? I heard through Alex Pettit, who's kind of the Periscope guru that you ought to follow if you're not, and you're interested in Periscope. He said that Apple may be making a big announcement today about Periscope, that maybe it's going to work on the Apple TV. Does anybody know if they made that announcement? Alex Pettit, Pettitt, I think. 2 sets of T's there. Somebody could check and put his name in here, and people could follow him. Tanny's saying, watching the announcement now. Not announced yet, not yet. They released the new iPad. Okay, we thought that. What about the iPhone 6 Plus? Delta Tiff says, not an Apple user. Yeah, I keep forgetting. Not everybody in the world uses Apple. Jonathan says, not yet. 6S. You guys going to get the 6S? Not sure if I'm going to. Greatest life changer advice. You know, I don't know that I could just point to one piece of life changer advice. I'm not very good on those kind of questions. Been so much advice I've gotten through the years that have been good. No 6S. Or maybe it's going to be the last thing. Isn't Franklin close to Centerville? No. Ruthie, don't you think good habits keep us from drifting? Yes, it's one of the great benefits of good habits is they do keep us from drifting. Paul, best advice on raising daughters. I have too. Okay, now we're into an area where I know a little bit. Okay, like the more I learn, the more I realize I don't know. My best advice on raising daughters, love your spouse. If you're a man, love their mother. Be passionate about it. Demonstrate what a healthy relationship looks like, because they're going to be in a world where there are a lot of broken relationships. And that was one of the things that really got me focused on creating the best marriage I could create, because I wanted to have that kind of influence on my daughters. Second thing I would say is listen. Don't be so eager to give advice. Sometimes the best thing you can do to influence your daughters, and if you agree with this, give me some hearts, is just listen. You know, just be somebody that listens, that shows empathy. Because here's what I want. I don't want to react. First of all, I don't want to shame my daughters when they come to me. And I don't want to be angry, because that's a penalty for them sharing with you. And so if one of your children comes in and they share something that obviously took them some courage to share with you, and maybe they're a little bit embarrassed, and my daughters were always harder on themselves than I ever was. If I react negatively, what does that do? Does that make them want to come share with me? No, it closes me out of their lives. Now they go to their friends. That's who they're going to confide in, not me. I want to be a safe place for them to land. Yeah, Jeremy says, just listen. That's exactly right. Men, love your wives. How can you encourage your daughters to be motivated? And it really starts with you. You know, are you motivated? Are you setting the example? I can tell you this. I wondered sometimes when my kids were in high school, you know, and they're not wanting to work and they're sleeping in and they're not doing good in their grades. I'm thinking to myself, what am I doing wrong as a parent? Let me tell you where they are. Fast forward 10 years. They're all grown now. My youngest is 24. My oldest is 34. Get this. All 5 are entrepreneurial. All 5 are killing it in their chosen profession. All 5 are hyper motivated. 4 of them are married. They have great husbands. I love them all dearly, like they were my own sons. So it sinks in more than you think. Have faith. You know, it sinks in. Hello from Life Quest Church. Awesome. Love that, somebody says. Clay says, very good. Aaron, what are some top books on leadership for 11th graders? You know, I think any of John Maxwell's books are fine. You know, I think The 21 Laws of Leadership, great book. You know, I'd start there. Mark, working from home with 2 young kids, how to find work-life balance. Again, I think you got to set the intention. I would start with that. Then I'm going to find the intention. I'm going to give adequate amount of time to my kids, to my self-care, to my work, you know, to whatever, church, whatever else you've got going on. Then I would map it out using the Ideal Week tool, which is on my website at michaelhyatt.com. Just search in the search field there for Ideal Week and map out how you can make that possible. Your ideal week's going to look different than mine. It's going to look different than your neighbors. It's going to look different than everybody you know. But map it out so that you have an intention and you have a plan. You know, oftentimes we wonder why we can't achieve the results we want, but we don't have a plan. So that's where I would start. Start with a plan. Well, guys, you've been terrific. I hope this has been helpful today. God willing, I'll be back on tomorrow. I look forward to reading about what Apple's done today. In fact, I'm going to go to my computer and look at that now. I'm going to be, by the way, on Blab in 30 minutes with Joel Comm. So I wish I could give you the address for that, but I've not tried Blab yet. This is going to be my first foray into that platform, but Joel promised to help me do it. So go to blab.im, look up Joel Comm, and you can subscribe actually to the Blab session, which we're going to do in 30 minutes. So hope to see you there. Thanks, guys.